my loves, and welcome back to Soulful Wahine, a safe space for healing, softness, and culture. I'm your host, Kehaulani. If you're tuning in from last week's episode, Polynesian Women and Mental Health, thank you so much for returning, sis. All of the feedback, the messages, the comments that I received, it just reinforced why I do this work and why this work is so important for us to talk about. And because I got such an overwhelming response from all of you, I want to take us one step deeper, okay? So today, we're going to be talking about people pleasing and the fear that we have when it comes to disappointing others. Beneath the yes, when we really want to say no, beneath the over-apologizing and the overextending of ourselves, typically lies a deep fear. And that deep fear is that if we say no, we might lose love, or that we might disappoint our loved ones. Either way, behind our people-pleasing tendencies, it's usually fear-driven. And I wanted to make space for us to talk about this because as Polynesian women, as women of color, this is something that I see many of us do. And as always, it's not to point finger or to place blame, but rather to create awareness around our own habits and how we show up in the world. Okay? I want to start with something though. Before we hop into everything, I just want to say that you are allowed to choose yourself, even if it disappoints others, even if it breaks a pattern that you were raised in. And like I said last time, if there is anything that I mention or say on this podcast that brings up certain feelings or even brings up certain uncomfortable feelings, try not to judge it. Just become aware that that emotion, that feeling is rising and being activated within you. Because sis, this is a safe space for us. This is a safe space for us to feel that emotion and to feel that reaction out. So as I said earlier, the truth behind people pleasing is that there's so much more behind it than just being nice. It is rooted in survival. It's rooted in cultural expectation. And it's rooted in that fear that we might lose love or that we might disappoint our loved ones. And so because those things are all things that we were raised in survival, we were raised to follow cultural expectations. All of those things play a part, a very large part in why we do the people-pleasing things that we do. And again, underneath all of that, it's usually that fear of disappointing others or that fear that we'll lose love. And I know for many of us, that is a very realistic and very big fear of ours. So, where does people-pleasing start? Let's get real and honestly talk about it. Because for many of us, like I said, people-pleasing is not about being nice. People-pleasing is about survival. It's about respect. It's about doing what you're told. It's about not talking back. It's about not pushing back. Okay? And I know for me, growing up Polynesian, respect was number one. You know, I can't speak for everywhere else, but I know in Hawaii, respect is like one of the biggest, if not the biggest cultural value there is. And so for me, the way I operate out of respect means not talking back. Respect means not pushing back and just falling in line. Or well, that's at least what it used to mean for me. From a young age, we are literally taught to be obedient, to be self-sacrificing, to be helpful, and to put the needs of the collective, of everyone else, above our own. And while some of these stem from beautiful cultural values like ohana and community, It can also create this inner conflict within ourselves where we feel guilty for standing up for ourselves, or where we feel guilty for wanting to say no. I want to ask you something. You ever say yes to something and then immediately after you can literally feel it kind of rising and building in your chest or in your stomach? Yeah, that's your inner self telling you it's time we choose us too. It's time we focus on us, on me. So, how does people pleasing show up for us? Well, it shows up as saying yes to family obligations when you know damn well you are exhausted. It shows up as apologizing for things that are not your fault. Shows up as avoiding hard conversations because you do not want to hurt someone's feelings. I know that that is something that I have done a lot. And honestly, I still kind of struggle with it with certain people in my life. It can also show up as taking on too much work at home or at work in order to avoid being seen as lazy. And it can also show up as changing how you speak, act, and dress in order to make other people feel comfortable. As I stated in the first episode, I am a born and raised Maui girl, and I currently live in Salt Lake City, Utah. When I first moved to Utah, my first few years here, I allowed people to give me nicknames for the simple fact that people would always tell me, "Oh, your name is too hard to pronounce. Can I call you something else?" And it wasn't until my grandma and my mom and my dad told me how beautiful my name was and the meaning and the power behind my name did I finally understand that I am not going to shrink myself. I'm not going to shrink my name to make other people feel comfortable. Um, you're going to learn my name. And now, especially in my professional setting, I make it a point that all my bosses, all my colleagues, all of my clients know how to say my name and they know how to pronounce Kehaulani correctly. And for me, when I look back at that younger version of myself, I can recognize that again, that there was that fear. There was that fear of not being liked for the simple fact that even though I have a pretty name, it's hard, you know? And so when I talk about this story or when I talk about this experience of mine, it's funny. I used to get irritated with myself, but now I'm able to give myself grace and understand that again, younger Kehaulani was just trying to navigate how to be here in Utah, how to make friends, how to fit in. And unfortunately, some of those people pleasing tendencies showed up. I just want to say, before we move on, sis, real love can handle your boundaries, and real respect does not require self abandonment. A lot of times people confuse boundaries as putting up walls or trying to keep people out. No, 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 no. Boundaries are actually the complete opposite of that. Boundaries are meant to invite healthy and close relationships. Boundaries are meant to make relationships closer, actually. And one thing that I have always stuck by, one thing that I always tell my clients is the only people that will ever have an issue with you having boundaries are the people that benefited from you having none. So keep that in mind, okay? Now, I want to make space so that we can start to talk about the inner work. Because here on Soulful Wahine, I don't want this podcast to be just a place where you hear me talk, where you hear me touch on these subjects. No, I am all about empowering my clients. I am all about empowering women. And through that empowerment, I have found that education is an amazing way to empower people. And so I want us to focus on the inner work. You know, how can we begin to shift away from these people pleasing tendencies and how can we become more aware? Okay. And so, as I tell everyone, clients, family, it all starts with awareness. Any and every healing journey, your first step is awareness. Because here's the thing. If you are not aware that you are doing something, how the hell are we supposed to change this? Like I said in my last video, if you do not know that you are showing up in the world in a certain way, how are we supposed to fix that? How are we supposed to work that? So, first step for any healing journey is becoming aware of your patterns, becoming aware of how you show up, becoming aware of what people-pleasing tendencies you do take part in. And remember, not judging it, but just creating that awareness around it. I want to give you some prompts. If you want to go ahead and journal, write these down, do that. If you want to just sit and reflect, that's fine too, sis. But I want to give you some prompts and some questions to kind of sit and reflect on, okay? So, first question, whose love did I feel like I had to earn while growing up? Second question, when was the last time I said yes, but really wanted to say no? Third question, what am I afraid of? Or what am I afraid will happen if I disappoint someone? And lastly, what part of me still believes that I need to be good in order to receive love? I want to just say all of this gently, sis. You don't have to earn your worth. Your boundaries do not make you difficult. Your rest is righteous and sacred. And no is a full sentence. In order for us to reclaim our power, I want us to practice a few things or a few phrases that you can try out when you recognize your people-pleasing trying to creep in. These few phrases I have personally used, I have given them to clients, and I feel like they work great. So if you're open to it, give them a try when you are able to recognize those tendencies creeping in. So, first one is, I really appreciate you thinking of me, but I need to pass this time. I love you, and I need to do what's best for me this time around. I'm working on honoring my energy more, so I can't commit to that right now. Very simple. However, at the same time, I recognize that these can feel very scary, feel very hard. And when that guilt kicks in, sis, because it will, remind yourself that I am allowed to take care of me. I am not responsible for everyone else's emotions. I can be kind without abandoning myself and or my needs. I want to be clear, again, this is not about turning our backs on our culture. More so, this is about reclaiming a balance in a culture that has so much love, so much heart, but also many generations of unspoken expectations. It's about making space for both, honoring our families and honoring ourselves. And it's about healing, not blaming. Because here's the thing, sis. When we set boundaries with compassion, when we teach our nieces and our daughters and little cousins that their voices matter, we begin to shift the legacy. We begin to heal those years of trauma, those things that we were never able to speak on. And we start to create a culture of mutual respect and not silent suffering. We begin to create a culture of emotional honesty and not emotional performance. Before we close today, I want to lead you through a quick, soft, and grounding moment. Go ahead and place your hand on your heart or over your belly, whichever feels most comfortable for you. And I want you to just go ahead, take a deep breath in, and slowly exhale. And repeat after me. I am allowed to say no. I am allowed to rest. I am allowed to choose myself. even if it disappoints others. Let that sit with you, sis. Again, if there are any emotions, if there's anything coming up for you, don't pass judgment. Just create awareness around it and what's coming up for you. I want to remind you that your worth is not measured by how much you can do for others. Your worth is not measured by how many people you can please. And your peace matters just as much as your presence. Lastly, sis, I want to leave you with a resource that could be so helpful if today's conversation really resonated with you. So today's book recommendation is called The Disease to Please by Dr. Harriet Braiker. It does a deep dive into why so many of us, especially women, get stuck in our cycles of people pleasing. And it also includes and speaks on how to start freeing ourselves from that invisible pressure. It's filled with really practical tools that can be helpful to allow you to step into a life that is now led by authenticity and not driven by fear, sis. I'll have it linked in the show notes if you feel called to read it. And lastly, sis, I just want to say thank you so much for being here with me today. This podcast is so special to me, and every week that we drop episodes, I just want to hear from all of you. You know, I'm just so grateful that each of you are here. If this episode spoke to you, please go ahead, like and subscribe to the channel. Share it with another sister that you feel like would really resonate with this message. And come find me on IG at Soulful Wahine. Again, this is meant to be a two-way street. I want to hear from you. I want to interact with you. If you felt something stir in your spirit, just wait, sis. Because next week, we're going to be diving into talking about how we can heal our inner child and how we can reclaim joy, creativity, and play. It's going to be a very beautiful, powerful conversation about returning home to yourself. And until then, sis, mahalo and aloha.